Muy buenos días, muy buenas tardes a las personas que nos siguen a través de la red de Zoom, a través de la plataforma de Zoom y a través de la red social de Facebook Live. Les damos la bienvenida a otro de nuestros webinars dentro de la serie de webinars de la Federación Mexicana de la Industria Aeroespacial. Para platicar acerca del webinar, el impacto del OEE, o sea, del Overall Equipment Effectiveness en la utilidad y la eficiencia de su compañía. Impartida por Deniss Schunigl, miembro asociado de nngenics, a quien le damos la bienvenida. Ahorita lo vamos a presentar apropiadamente. También aprovechamos la oportunidad para platicar un poquito acerca de nuestro siguiente webinar de la siguiente semana, donde tendremos al rector de la Universidad Aeronáutica en Querétaro y además presidente del Consejo Mexicano de Educación Aeroespacial, Jorge Gutiérrez de Velasco, platicando acerca del Laboratorio de Diseño y Manufactura Digital para Aplicaciones Aeronáuticas bajo el modelo de la triple hélice. El miércoles 21 de abril, les recordamos, 11:30 de la mañana, tiempo del centro de México. Ahí, si gustan hacer el registro, ahí está el código QR, bueno, ya lo quitaron, pero ¿cómo se llama? Si lo pueden poner un momentito más, nada más para que el que guste hacer el registro a través del código QR o a través de la liga del site laboratorio-aero.eventbrite.com. Bueno, la que sigue, platicar un poquito acerca de la Federación Mexicana de la Industria Aeroespacial. Es una asociación privada sin fines de lucro que aplica o agrupa, perdón, a las principales empresas de la industria aeroespacial en México que actúan en manufactura, mantenimiento, diseño, ingeniería y otros servicios. Tenemos poco más de 120 miembros y nuestros miembros son responsables de más del 80% de las exportaciones aeroespaciales de México. Somos prácticamente la contraparte privada del gobierno federal mexicano en términos de que nuestro organismo tiene un enfoque a nivel nacional, a pesar de que colaboramos con organismos afines también dentro de México y también fuera de México, que ahí vemos algunos de ellos. ¿Qué sigue? Bueno, tenemos también a nuestros miembros, ¿verdad?, que van a reconocer algunos de los logotipos, pero todos son igual de importantes porque todos ellos conforman una parte muy importante de la industria aeroespacial de nuestro país. Bueno, también aprovechar la oportunidad para presentarles al staff de la Federación Mexicana de Industria Aeroespacial. Tenemos en primer término a Pamela Arellano, directora de operación, a Mónica Vega, directora de promoción. Continuando con las damas, vamos con Mariana González, que es la gerente de gestión y membresía, y Marta Ortuño, asistente de dirección y administración del proyecto. Y tenemos en la dirección de desarrollo de proveedores a Javier Hurtado y a Enrique Maldonado dentro de la gerencia de proveeduría. Su servidor, Luis Liscano, presidente ejecutivo. Todos estamos aquí para servirles. De hecho, todos estamos presentes en esta transmisión también. Bueno, también para mencionarles que la presentación que nos va a hacer nuestro invitado del día de hoy, la intención es que haga toda la presentación completa. Si tienen alguna duda o algún comentario, vamos a tener una sesión de preguntas y respuestas al final de la presentación de Deniss, de tal forma de que nos puedan hacer las preguntas por chat y poderlas plantear a nuestro expositor justo al final de su presentación. Bueno, ahora me gustaría presentar a Deniss. Bueno, quiero hacer también la aclaración. La presentación de Deniss va a ser en inglés. Entonces, es importante. Vamos a cambiar a inglés. Ahorita lo voy a presentar en español. Deniss Schunigl es un partner asociado de nngenics y ahorita se desempeña como el jefe de operaciones y ventas de nngenics México y es responsable del crecimiento de la compañía y también de la relación y la administración con los clientes existentes en México, incluyendo proyectos para 3 grandes productores de equipo original, grandes productores de automotrices y también para proveedores aeroespaciales. Además de su posición como líder de operaciones, Mr. Schunigl es también uno de los más altamente calificados gerentes de la compañía, manteniendo una experiencia muy amplia y muy versátil en planeación y implementación de procesos de logística, y considerado como uno de los pioneros en introducir la Industria 4.0 para optimizar procesos en México. Ha adquirido una experiencia muy importante en análisis de procesos y de flujo de materiales, y tiene un conocimiento muy amplio en las áreas en áreas de project management, planeación de producción y soluciones logísticas adaptadas al cliente. Sin más, le dejamos cámaras y micrófonos a Deniss. Deniss, bienvenido, muchas gracias por estar con nosotros y estamos muy atentos de tu presentación. Bienvenido y estamos a la orden.
Muchas gracias, Luis. Muchas gracias por la presentación y también para la invitación. Estamos muy felices atendiendo un segundo webinar con ustedes. Voy a ahorita empezar a compartir mi pantalla. So again, thank you very much. We changed to English because the presentation and the OEE factors are have really specific vocabulary, where I think it's better when we hold it in English. Before we start, let me say something about Ingenics, especially Ingenics Mexico. We are here meanwhile with more than 5 years. Our foundation was in 2014. We have around 23 employees, and we are happy with that, spread in the country. We are with one office in Puebla, and we have, meanwhile, as you can see on the right side, we have a mix of customers who are from various areas who are daily trusting in our services and our competences. Today we talk about the impact of the OEE and the profitability and the efficiency of your business, since the OEE is in the production company one of the most important KPIs you should maintain. Before that, we start with some implications. What is actual in the market, the situation, what's going on. I have here really, IATA is there preparing really good information. What you see here now is from IATA. They evaluate 2 types of scenarios. As you can see, really easy. There's with the scenario 1 where they say, okay, when the travel restrictions get a little bit down because the countries start to vaccinate their people, or in scenario 2 where you see where they see a slight decrease in comparison to scenario 1 of around 5%, where they are saying the governments are maintaining these hard rules that mainly you need to go in quarantine when you travel to the country, you cannot move freely, so this prevents you from traveling, etc. Overall, what we can tell you from our customers, because we are working also with OEMs together, I can tell you that the demand generally gets higher, and the scenarios for ourselves now in a company need to get evaluated to which we commit and how we align our business on that to wake up again and be ready. Because one thing is clear, the strive for the BCC, the best cost country, will remain the same. So we have no time to let me say, to recover in terms of a monetary factor after the crisis when the ramp up comes again. We have the same we're facing the same competition on the market. Nevertheless, as you know, Boeing starts again with its MAX program. Airbus has already much more orders. They go up 25% higher in their own production. And also what I can tell you from one of our customers, Lufthansa Technik, they are in the maximum saturation of their air fleet, and the retired airplanes, where they retired before the crisis, the airplanes which are not anymore on the newest standpoint, they need now to get replaced for more efficient models. This is good for the market. So today's agenda, we will talk about the OEE concept. Yeah. So what is the theoretical definition that we have there, a fixed base for the further part of the presentation. Then we talk about the 6 big losses, the elements, especially what reduce the efficiency and of a production process, and to make also kind of awareness. Then we talk about a world-class OEE, where we say this OEE is highly competitive, and how we calculate it. Yeah, we have there prepared for you the calculation of the OEE so that we can have a look on what exactly is the definition of each part. Then we will go to the point of the success stories, where we want to value add here to show you real cases, what we have done together with the customer and what was the impact of it. And last but not least, we will come to the already announced, to the discussion forum, where we make a Q&A session. So what is the OEE? Let us start with this chapter and with the losses. By the 6 big losses, we talk about malfunctions, what happening in the daily operations, adjustments, and the startup. This is also a really, really important factor. Number 2, what is mostly forgotten to consider. You know it maybe when shifts are turning. Obviously, you lose there some minutes because of the handover. Then you have so-called micro stoppages, where you need to clarify problems. We will later also go deeper into the definition. Reductions of operating speed, rejections after the startup, and then last but not least, the quality rejections. So what is the concept behind the OEE? And this is, or what is he saying? Yeah, it's the overall equipment, effectiveness. Yeah. So this is a best practice tool in which we monitor to improve the effectiveness of the production process. Yeah. So with the OEE, you can monitor the availability, the performance, and the quality. The availability in the sense of how I use my available production time. How is the performance, or how we are benefiting from the productive speed? Yeah, can we be faster? Or are we on the limit? And in quality, by the compliance with the established quality standards. Yeah? So an OEE indicator that has 100%, yeah, is, or means you are using 100% of your available operation time. The process produces 100% at the planned rate, and that your 100% of the parts produced are being made with expected quality. Why I show you this slide? To create also somehow awareness, because an OEE from 100% is almost impossible. When we come to companies, we have the case that we see them, they have an OEE of 100, or the better 110. Yeah? So this is theoretically or calculatory impossible. Yeah? So therefore, it's important that we have now in the next slides a closer look on it. Why? Yeah? So the operating time breakdown of the production time is, you have a total planned operating time. For example, easygoing, it's from Monday to Friday from 8 to 5. Yeah? You have 40 hours. From that goes down the planned production time, because you take here, for example, out production stoppages like 10 minutes to hand over the 10 minutes to hand over the shift. Then you would have a second one. If you have just one, it's the break, yeah, for the lunch. Yeah, the availability, any event that reduces the original planned production time can be unplanned maintenance, yeah, reactive maintenance, because in the predictive maintenance, you would have to done the repair before. By the performance, any factor that causes the process to operate at a slower speed. Can be also an employee. Yeah? That means that the machine is then damaged, and we need to wait till it's repaired, and till it's repaired, it runs just on 50%. It's also the performance of the employee. Does he need to search a tool? Yeah. Does he have everything in place? For example, what supports methods like we all know in the past, for example, a 5S table method, where he has then the fastest access to his things he needs on daily basis. And then the quality losses. So there you can already see how your planned time goes down from the 100% you could have achieved. So what are these 6 big losses we have in the beginning talked about? The 6 big losses are mainly deviated in the malfunctions, what gives us a loss of availability, tool failures, unplanned maintenance, general failures, adjustment and startup. This is when we make the ramp up of the company, when we come in the morning and we go in the evening, or we give to the next shift. So we have also loss of availability in terms of, because again, tool changes, major adjustments, warm-up time of the employee, understanding so what was done, where I am, orientating phase. And then we have also small stoppages in point number 3, where you can see this is a loss of performance. We have material jams or blocked sensors. We need to make a cleaning, etc. In point number 4, you can see the speed reduction, what is also logically based, connected to the factor of performance, where you have a poorly planned capacity of this weekly or daily production. You have equipment, I call it here equipment fatigue. Let me define you that this is when your production labor force is not working on its 100% due to some external circumstances, or the operator inefficiency. By the startup, we have also rejections, because what is affecting the quality part, because there you have in the beginning, the first parts, you have the higher scrap rate than planned, or you need to rework. And by the production rejections, logically, you have also a loss of your factor of quality. So what is a world-class OEE? A world-class OEE is the ideal target indicator for a manufacturing company. Means you have 90% of performance, 95% of availability, and 99.9% of quality. So you would have then an OEE of 85%. And the 85% OEE is already world-class. The benchmark of the aerospace suppliers we have evaluated for companies like Airbus, for example, the benchmark is there between 58 and 63. So you see the gap to 85 is really big. I will later also show you the impact of this increasement, what you have later from that if you increase your OEE. So by a world-class OEE, or to achieve that, you have obviously to face some challenges. Like we have talked, you recall them now, the malfunctions, the adjustments, and the ramp up, the small stoppages, the ramp up and production rejections. I have prepared for you on the right side the solutions for it. For example, by malfunctions, you can go to look for to use the Pareto analysis, or to go with the root cause analysis and pass also all the 6 steps. And what happens by the root cause analysis, mostly the arrow is, you go from point 1 to point 3 to point 6 to the solution. And then you have a triangle. So you're never monitoring if it's working, and you never have analyzed the clear root of the cause. By the adjustments of the ramp up, you can do a ramp up time tracking. You can prepare, later I show this on you also in a real example, you can prepare handover documents, handover standard process for the next shift or for the next day. You can use the SMET, and in the small stoppages and speed reduction, you can watch closer your cycle time, you can analyze that, you can make an analysis of small stoppages and the reduced speed, and in the ramp up and production rejections, also again with the method root cause analyze or the Six Sigma. So calculating an OEE and how is it properly done, I will show you now in the next slide, where you see you have the OEE, like we have talked, 85%, and this comes through the part of availability we have talked. And then how gets calculated the availability? The availability gets calculated through the total actual operating minutes divided through the total planned minutes of operation. Like we had in the first graph where you can see the table, you have planned 40 hours, and then you have your time of breaks, of lunch, of small maintenance things. Then we come to the part performance, where you say, okay, how we calculate the performance. And there you talk about the actual units produced divided through the total planned units you have or you wanted to produce. Then in the quality, you say all my units which I have approved today divided through the total units I have inspected. So as you can already see, there are several departments involved to calculate that OEE adequately. And with that, you will be then able with this calculation to maintain a clear track of your most important production KPI. Let us come now to the success stories. Like I told you in the beginning, we have prepared here some real life examples, what you can where you can see the impact and how was the methodology to come there. So by this one, we have made, as I described here, the initial situation. You can see on the left side the basis, on the right side what were the main areas of the opportunity. It was a tier 2 supplier who got escalated to level 2. This is a highly risky supplier, means he causes line stoppages already. And to eliminate any risk to do this further, need to be done immediately improvements or a so-called action plan. So what we did in that case, we got called for support by the supplier to solve this problem as fast as possible. We were first determining a diagnosis. So this is the basis of the root cause, to analyze properly the problem and in the most important areas which are affected. Because by a level 2 escalation, you are already in troubleshooting, means you need to solve what comes up and now. The main areas of opportunity we have detected there was the strengthening of the implementation and execution of the quality assurance system, means that the quality gate works like they should. And there are probably measure of the production process efficiency, what comes then already, as you can see, to the OEE, increase the efficiency of the production process. So when you can see now these main areas are the OEE. So when this plant manager, in that case, where we are not, because of confidentiality, not allowed to say the name, when this plant manager would have tracked his OEE and supervised the correct implementation, he would have seen much more before that something is happening in his process. So let us see what was done as a method. So in the first stage, we did the standardization of the knowledge about OEE and its processes. So what does this mean? This means we trained the concept and elements of calculation and interpretation of an OEE. And there is basically a big discussion how it gets calculated. Because the table I have showed you before. Some people use this table to interpret deviations inside. What is planned stoppage, what's not planned stoppage, for example. What is a rejection, what is not a rejection. So we focus there on the production team leaders, of the quality engineers and technicians, to show them how to make a clear calculation of the OEE. In the second part, we assured them, we committed to who is responsible for what in terms of delivering the adequate data, implementing a standardized format of reporting in tracking it, and also of visualizing it, and then to calculate it in the end of the day. yeah, or in the shifts, depends how you want it. In the stage 2, because now, as you can see, we have it just done, that the calculation is assured. We have now the transparency we need. We know this is the clear calculation of the OE according to what we have committed to. And now we say in stage 2, how we make now the further improvement plan and the results monitoring. There we do it, like we said, with the OEE implementation, like I have described to you now. We select the production process to be evaluated. When there are various lines, we can commit to one line and use this as a prototype, and then afterwards as the best practice to roll out to the other production lines. And we can generate OEE and breakdown of performance, availability, and quality factors. So everything is now visualized. Then you make the OEE analysis, where you compare the OEE obtained versus the one you have set yourself as a target, and mostly also set already by the OEM, which OEE you need to have. What is also then depending or influencing your future. Then we compare the results obtained for the availability, performance, and quality versus the target, and transfer them and create the improvement plan. The improvement plan has the sense to identify the problems that cause failures to achieve the OEE and to identify the root cause of the problems, and then implement the corrective actions. So after this day, you have already the plan. Where's the case? What need to get improved? Who's responsible, and to which date is it closed? And with closed means 100% implemented and sustainability is assured. Then we come to the results monitoring, where we say, okay, we are systematically reviewing the goal versus the objective. Let me say the result versus the objective or the goal. And then we establish the operational KPIs, because for the KPI of performance of the OEE, we can select for this department, who's affecting that, sub KPIs who are leading them to this. This is also what you can see. You have their bottom-up principle, what you can use, and not just OEE on the macro. So go also a little bit down or get vertically more integrated in terms of KPI to have the adequate and to ensure the adequate calculation. Let us come to another success story with the initial situation. We have here an initial OEE indicator of 68.8%. What is for the premium production OEMs not sufficient. Like we said, there's 85, the minimum. And what we analyzed there? There you see an example for an action plan, how to improve the OEE. We have here a shown availability of around 68%. And with for example, here we use the Pareto principle to define certain actions, to analyze and define certain actions, and then we create the action plan. And here below, you can see an example of an action plan. How does it look? You have the date, what you set yourself, the places where the issue occurred, then you have the issue, you have the cause, what happened, why it happened, and then you can define what is the countermeasure, who's responsible, until when it's closed. So what happens when we have done this final situation and we reached them finally by this supplier, the 85%, what is happening is you have basically a margin increase per product. And you have some more benefits, what I will show you in the next slide. You have increased your margin. Means you have more in the pocket. And here we see how we improved it over time. You see the blue line is the target, where we said, okay, we start with the 80, then we commit to the 85 like planned. And then you can see what were then certain issues we had on the line. I just go quick for the laser pointer. There were then some not planned stoppages or some events which were not foreseen. Yeah, but as you can see, with the correct OEE strategy and KPI strategy, you can pass. Yeah, you can recover. Yeah, in your weekly production, for example, or in your monthly production, you can balance your losses. Yeah, and these balances with a good inventory planning, so you don't affect your final customer, because the customer satisfaction is one of the most important one. So we differentiate here between systemic events and punctual events. So the punctual events is where we really know that they will happen, and the systemic events are events we cannot influence but are system relevant, like the maintenance or the maintenance of a broken part. When we talk about operational improvements and its effect, you can see what by this supplier happened. Yeah? You have definitely a better compliance with the production program, as you can see. Then you have a better compliance with your planned inventory. Look what by this supplier happened in the inventory. It, because of the better OEE, of this strong increase, of more than 18%, his inventory exploded. And then also you can see the compliance with your, what is the most important factor, with the shipment program and the satisfaction towards your customer. So let us have a look on the success story summary. So the improvement from 68 to 85%, the stabilization and the increasing the compliance of the production program, inventory and shipments, and it got eliminated the need for overtime. This is something really important to consider, that with extension of shifts or overtime, Saturday, Sunday, third shifts, you can return to a normal production schedule, and the waste of additional resources and also monetary resources. And don't underestimate there the motivation of the employee. To work over months on the path of recovery, Saturdays and Sundays, can be really tiring and unmotivate the team. And the team is, as final user of the machines and the parts, the key success factor. And then you have a tangible economic improvement achieved 2 months just after the intervention. As you can see, it's really short of time with a big impact and a big sustainable impact. Another success story where I have also prepared clear amounts was we were by a battery supplier and not supplier, by a battery supplier, but he produces also the battery completely. He's not a wholesaler. It took us completely 4 months for the implementation and verification of the effectiveness. The OEE in line 10 was from 68 to 80%, and the improvement of the OEE from line 11 when we arrived was by 29, and we left with 70%, with the rest of the open actions to achieve the final 85. As you can see, we talk here about a saving of $86,000, not pesos, $86,000 per month of savings. So this interests maybe also for you, what is the impact? And here we have an example from a domestic goods producer. For that reason, also these high demands. So he has a theoretical, what we see here. So we have a theoretical production per year of 438,000. Actual production, we have 263,019. And what is his actual OEE with 60%? He has a profit of around 11 and return on capital employed of 6.8%. And now you can see the big level of that. Again, the same 438,000 theoretical production increased now to more than 300,000 pieces. So the OEE jumps to more than 70%, or to 70 in that case. And now take a look what happened to the profit. As it doubled, as it's an over proportional growth working on the OEE. And so as you can see on the return of capital employed, this indicator has even increased 100% with only a 10% improvement of the OEE. So to say as a conclusion, any process is susceptible to improvement, no matter how long you've been in the business. There's always room for more. And with that, I thank you very much for your attention. Also, give me the chance, when you want to contact me, please feel free to contact Itzel or me. Additional, I want to use the chance to show you another method for an improvement in your company with the RPA, where you automate the process through so-called bots, and you use their really repetitive processes, what is also a big impact and factor for you, or can be interesting. And with that, we can then start with the Q&A round. And if you want to see any slide in specific, please feel free to ask, and we can go to that slide and talk again about it.
Thank you, Deniss. Muchas gracias, Deniss. Muchas gracias por la presentación.
Gracias a usted.
De hecho, ¿cómo se llama? Hacemos la invitación otra vez a nuestro auditorio que por favor nos hagan llegar las preguntas que tengan acerca de la presentación de Deniss al chat que tenemos sobre Zoom, ¿verdad? Si hay una pregunta que tenga también la audiencia que nos escucha por Facebook Live, también pueden hacerla por ahí y nos la harán llegar también. Bueno, aquí tenemos una pregunta, nos dicen que nos están preguntando, Deniss, que si en la lámina que indicas el 85% del OEE World Class, I don't know if I have to switch to English or you can understand, but you in the slide that you indicate that 85% of the OEE World Class, you mentioned that the average is 65% worldwide. Could you explain a little bit more
Yes. Yes, I can explain it. And Luis, we can also make it in Spanish. If the question is in Spanish, I answer in Spanish, and if it's in English, I answer in English. We are bilingual. So this was the average of 110 suppliers. We have had the need to evaluate, or we got from the OEM contracted to evaluate more than 100 suppliers. And named suppliers, these are not even suppliers who want to come to the business. These are also suppliers who are in the business, and so it's an average of around 110 suppliers, where we talk about lower than 60% as a benchmark.
Excellent.
If this is answering the question.
I don't know, Carlos Schillinger, I don't know if this answered your question. Yes, okay. Yes, this answered his question.
Okay.
They're asking about if you have implemented this on service, instead of manufacturing. How will this be applied to a service company or service provider rather than a manufacturing provider?
Can in a service, this is the service company has other KPIs, let me say it like that. The OEE is for production companies.
Okay.
When you produce a part.
Okay, very good, very good. So it's good to understand. Sandra González, yes, sí, sí vamos a compartir la grabación. De hecho, todas las grabaciones de la serie completa de los webinars están en nuestro canal en el de FEMIA Channel en YouTube. Entonces pueden buscar ahí. Obviamente sí trae un poquito de lag, no es automático, pero sí, no sé, en un par de días pueden buscar la presentación y por supuesto que está disponible, ¿no? Todo el webinar. Talking about plant performance, it is important that this may be calculated with very strict standards. So what you can say about the calculation for the plant performance on this?
The calculation need to be made, yes, to fix standards. And I put this slide again. You find the operating time breakdown. You can also research it on Google. There is then much more detailed what is seen as reducing of the production time according to which standard. Yeah. If you have any other events in your company where you say it's different, yeah, you need to commit to one and clarify this also with your final customer. Because at the end of the day, the definitions of the phases, like I showed you here, they are clear. Yeah. But if there are any specialities in your process, have a closer look on it, take the time and say, okay, example easy. I need to change this tool once a day, yeah, because it's wanted by the supplier, by the customer, like that. The customer wants that they change once a day the tool. Yeah, so you can there define together with him when he says you need to bring an 85% OEE, you need to ask if this is affecting already your total planned operating time or your total, let's assume, of 40 hours of production, you have every day 1 hour of break, so you're by 35, and then you need every day an hour to change the tool, so you're by 30. So you need, theoretically, you would be by 30. When you now talk to your customer and you say, hey, it's not necessary, but you are setting the requirement of changing the tool 1 time per day, yeah, because you say it would be physically not necessary. So my total planned operating time is then 35. Yeah. So you don't include that, what is a set requirement. But this you can just do in an agreement with your final customer. Otherwise, it would be a clear stoppage of tool change.
Very good. There's another question. Hay otra pregunta. How does this method applies to small business, small companies? Is there any change or any consideration to implement this in small business, in small companies?
It's the same. It's exactly the calculation. It's exactly the same. When maybe this person, or I see here it was Angel Garcia, if he wants to specify what does mean a small business, means 2 machines, 1 person, yeah. Or let us take this example: 1 machine, 2 machines, 1 person, and 1 second, I guess. Okay. When you have that, then you can, for example, by small companies, it works exactly the same. Yeah. When you have then your first customer, and you have for this customer a total produced, you can achieve the same OE. It's the same method. Example. Let me think of an example. You get a contract to deliver an OEM or a tier 1 supplier. You need to bring him, you need to produce 6 hours a day for him. Yeah. So your total planned operating time, yeah, is then the total hours you have to operate for the day, and then your planned production time, and these are the 6 hours. and then you start to measure on basis of these 6 hours your OEE. Yeah. So obviously you have a loss because your machine could run the normal workday of 8 hours. Yeah. And then you can see, okay, my OEE is lower. For me, the customer's OEE is good because in these 6 hours I can everything make finish, but my company OEE, I have potential to improve because I lose capital. Yeah, I could do more.
Okay. Another question then is, what organizations or companies actually issue or give a certification or a OEE certification or award in Mexico?
It's not a certification. What you get there when you do that, it's more a branch method to calculate the production process. I mean, it is, you can get trained in that, you can get or you train yourself in that, and at the same time there's no that you can say, okay, you are officially certified to calculate the OEE.
Okay, very good. So it's basically a tool or a method to implement in your company.
For everyone accessible, yeah, for everyone.
Very good. They're asking about a small production batch or small companies again. How can they increase productivity in small batch production? You know, this is very applicable to our industry, since aerospace, you know, we have small batches, and that is a challenge that we have to face in the industry.
When you produce in batches, or when you produce in batches, you need definitely to look the availability. Yeah, that you have in that you flatten, yeah, that you balance. And by the availability, you can balance your company through also a better planned inventory, for example. Yeah, I mean, when you produce in batches, what is important for you as a company is to have what you produce for a customer, do it in the most efficient way, to have enough space to do for others something, because you wanted to increase your business. Yeah. So when I produce in batches, I need to produce in batches. I can produce 6 hours, but what I do with the rest of the 33 or 34? This is the question. And this is for you a business development question. It's not an OEE question, because you need to fill this rest of the 36, what theoretically could be work. Yeah.
Okay, just to continue answering the question about this webinar being available, we are actually putting the FEMIA channel link in the chat window, so you can follow that and follow not only this webinar but all the webinar series that we have had in the past in FEMIA. Another question is, could you give you mentioned that you have savings or profits there. Could you give an example of how can you calculate those savings or profits?
Let us look quick. 1 second.
I think it's
so. You have here to calculate your profits. I guess this slide helps us the most. Yeah. So you can calculate it in your, let me say, revenues. Yeah. You have with 60%, you have various factors. You have some scrap, means you could have sold it. Yeah. Then you need minimum to say, okay, I have lost the production price of this part. Yeah. So when you have a better OEE, you have more. Yeah. So this, you have less scrap, and the scrap costs you. It costs you raw material and costs you the opportunity cost of what you would have sold it. So let me say the part in your company costs $2 to produce it, but you sell it for 10. Yeah. So you have lost theoretically for you, calculatory, hardcore, you have lost $2, nothing more. But the opportunity costs, what you have really lost, are 8. Yeah? And so you calculate logically in an easy way your profit, what you have now more in the pocket because you have less scrap. And when we go to when we go to the macroeconomics, you theoretically could have more sold. So, you know.
Okay.
I hope this is answering your question.
Okay, very good. They're asking about how much contribute the metrology activities to the OEE percentage. You know, how important is the metrology activity, metrology in terms of how to measure things in manufacture, measure dimensions and things like that.
The metrology. Let me quick translate it into German. I need quick to translate it.
It's basically, you know, the appropriate use of CMMs and things like that. How to measure your
Oh, I have it. Thank you. Sorry, pardon. I needed to translate it quick into German. Yeah. The metrology activities are going into the parts of are going into the factor of quality inspection. It's not affecting your factor at all, because in quality, you are calculating the OEE according to the units you have approved, divided through the ones you have inspected. Yeah. So in the OEE, with the metrology and the measuring of the parts, this is a quality term. So it's here under it. Yeah. Where you get just in trouble is when you need for measuring so long that you have 500 produced and just one checked, so you have 499 still laying around what you cannot make ready. And this is then not anymore an OEE topic. This is a systemical topic what need to get watched closely.
So basically, you take for granted that the inspection is done with the appropriate measuring tools, right?
Yes, this is above the quality.
Very good. How can you correlate this tool, OEE tool, with the philosophy of Industry 4.0?
Definitely. Yeah, it's a very good question. This is when you combine this with digitalization or with Industry 4.0, you have an OEE boom. Yeah, because let us just talk about the availability. Yeah, the availability when you make digitalization or Industry 4.0 and you move toward predictive maintenance. And predictive maintenance not as a big science anymore. Yeah, these are sensors who are on your machine measuring if there's any weakness. Take an easy CNC machine where sensors are measuring if your tool gets weaker through warm graphics, through pressure points, if it gets weaker, etc. Yeah. So when you combine these two, yeah, means digitalization with your or Industry 4.0 with your actual methods, you go higher in the OEE because your availability increases and it gives you a big competitive advantage. As this is something where I could talk 1 hour about it. So when you want to have more information, Anatolio, then don't hesitate to contact me and we can have a call about that we go deeper into this topic and I can give you some hints and advices, or we can exchange some impulse what is going on in the market.
Well, thank you very much. You know, unfortunately, time is always running for us. El tiempo siempre nos está comiendo. Muchísimas gracias, Deniss. Agradecemos mucho la colaboración y la presentación que has dado. Y también agradecemos muchísimo a nuestro auditorio, pero sí quisiéramos expresar también nuestro agradecimiento como organismo, como Federación Mexicana de la Industria Aeroespacial, a Deniss por ¿cómo se llama? Por participar como expositor en este interesante webinar. Muchas gracias, Deniss.
Muchas gracias a usted.
Estamos a la orden. Y bueno, pues también para recordarle a nuestra audiencia que la semana que entra, miércoles 21 de abril a las 11:30, tiempo del Centro de México, tendremos el webinar Laboratorio de Diseño y Manufactura Digital para Aplicaciones Aeronáuticas bajo el modelo de la triple hélice, con Jorge Gutiérrez de Velasco, quien es el rector de la Universidad Aeronáutica en Querétaro. Muchísimas gracias, les agradecemos que nos acompañen en esta serie de webinars y también les solicitamos que nos sigan en nuestras redes sociales, en Facebook, en Twitter, también en YouTube y en LinkedIn. Ahí están los accesos para que estén enterados de qué es lo que está sucediendo, que tengan el pulso de lo que está sucediendo en la industria aeroespacial de México. Bueno, muchísimas gracias a todos. Deniss, otra vez te reiteramos nuestro agradecimiento y bueno, pues a todos también agradecerles el favor de su atención e invitarlos a vernos nuevamente la semana que entra. Muchísimas gracias, que tengan un excelente día y un excelente resto de semana. Muchas gracias y nos vemos la semana que entra.
Bye bye.
Hasta luego.